And then there's Paul Waldman in the Washington Post. He took on the two competing Clinton Foundation scandals, or the two foundation scandals, not Clinton. The Trump Foundation scandal is an actual case of flat-out bribery. That's to Pam Bondi. And Clinton's was nothing. And the New York Times' Paul Krugman devoted a column to a scathing critique of the press. I read that the other day, and he compared the Times coverage, or news coverage, to the treatment of Al Gore back in 2000 when a fake liar meme circulated, propagated by right-wing opposition organizations to tar him as dishonest and mentally unstable. Well, guess what? It was so successful in 2000, it's being done again. And you know what? So many people in this country are buying right into it. And that's the part that drives me knuckin' futs. Because, I've said it before, there are all sorts of issues around which the Clinton philosophy, whatever it is, could be seriously challenged. Talk about the specifics. What does she mean by this? But no, they won't do that. These cockroaches in media won't do it. Mrs. Clinton, do you think Donald Trump was right when his campaign said that you're a goddamn liar? Mrs. Clinton, what do you think of James Comey saying that although he didn't find anything prosecutable in his interview with you, you were really a liar? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Digby writes, much of the criticism in general is focused on the New York Times, which seems to have a strange institutional vendetta against both Clintons. It's hard to understand why this would be true over so many years. But perhaps Jonathan Allen explained it best in this brutally honest piece called Confessions of a Clinton Reporter, the media's 5 unspoken rules for covering Hillary. This, Digby writes, can fairly be said to apply across the board, not just to the Times. Here you go. The media's 5 unspoken rules for covering Hillary. 1. The Clinton rules are driven by reporters' and editors' desire to score the ultimate prize in contemporary journalism, the scoop that brings down Hillary Clinton and her family's political empire. At least in that way, Republicans and the media have a common interest. Number 2, this problem has deep roots in our political culture and is potentially creating a serious crisis in 2016. If Donald Trump were to pull out a win, the ramifications would be extreme, and he could. Nate Silver and the 538 gang of statisticians don't give him good odds, but they do not believe it's impossible. Number 3, our model, that's not number 3, shows Trump as having gained about 2 points over 2 weeks. If Trump keeps gaining 1 percentage point a week, he'll beat Clinton by a couple of percentage points on November 8th. Hence, Clinton should probably not be picking out the White House drapes just yet. There's more. You can go to Salon and read it yourself if you want to. And Krugman gets in on this too. He calls it the dangerously lopsided coverage of Trump and Clinton. No shit. He writes in his column on Monday, he writes about his memories of the 2000 Bush versus Gore election and the really shitty job the media did in covering the race. Bob Alexander has talked about this so many times. I've talked about it so many times. December 12th, 2000 was the day the Supreme Court decided that Americans would no longer live with a form of representative government. And nobody did shit. It was the easiest coup in the history of coups. Krugman wrote, one candidate, George W. Bush, was dishonest in a way that was unprecedented in U.S. politics. Most notably, he proposed big tax cuts for the rich while insisting, in raw denial of arithmetic, that these tax cuts were targeted for the middle class. These campaign lies presage what would happen during his administration, an administration that, let us not forget, took America to war on false pretenses, end quote. Now, see, that's Krugman writing. I would have said that a hell of a lot more intensely than took America to war on false pretenses, and you've heard me say it. But anyway, that's not the way media portrayed George W. Bush during the campaign. As Jana Allen writes at Alternet, the media gave the impression Bush was a bluff, straightforward guy. Yeah. Meanwhile, they portrayed Al Gore, whose policy proposals, by the way, added up and whose critiques of the Bush plan were completely accurate. But media portrayed Al Gore as slippery and dishonest. Krugman writes, quote, Mr. Gore's mendacity was supposedly demonstrated by trivial anecdotes, none significant, some of them simply false, and no, he never claimed to have invented the internet. But the image stuck. See, the problem here is that Trump's lack of honesty, or let's call it honesty, Trump's honesty is being graded on a curve. And as Janet points out, the minute he does not say anything deeply offensive for a whole day, he's hailed as having pivoted. I'm pivoting. I pivoted, and becoming presidential. Woo! Well, you saw him in Mexico with the flags back there and shit, right? Payoffs to state attorneys general, and apparently it's more than Pam Bondi, to stop the investigation of the Ponzi scheme, the lies and the deception that was Trump University. That's getting no attention. The lawsuit brought against him for child molestation, rape, no attention. Fuck it. We have too many rape stories. We don't need another one. Compare this to the Clinton Foundation coverage. Janet writes, when Bill Clinton left office, he was a popular, globally respected figure. What should he have done with that reputation? Raising large sums for a charity that saves the lives of poor children sounds pretty reasonable. Sounds like a virtuous course of action. And the Clinton Foundation is, by all accounts, a big force for good in the world. For example, Charity Watch, an independent watchdog, gives the Clinton Foundation an A rating, better than the American Red Cross. But none of that means shit. You know why? Because Hillary Clinton is a goddamn liar. Repeat after me. Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. Now just sit there and keep saying it. I'll be back in a moment. Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. Come on. Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi.